Hello everyone, welcome back to another exciting and inspiring episode of On Location with Zara Durrani, brought to you by TELUS STORYHIVE. Joining me right now is an amazing award-winning producer. He has been involved in over 80 projects as a producer, whether it is with films, documentaries, as well as plays. He has also done music videos with Biff Naked and Jim Burns, and a couple of years ago I ran into this gentleman out in the south of France during the 72nd Annual Cannes Film Festival, where he frequents regularly to showcase his films, to bring films that he has produced. He is certainly a figure to know in the Vancouver film industry. He is the founder of the Celluloid Social Club. I'm talking about none other than Mr. Paul Armstrong. Paul, welcome.
Thank you
bonjour,
so much.
bonjour.
Bonjour. Oui.
How are you doing?
Yeah, great. Can't complain.
Yeah, so it's the festival season right now, a very busy time of the year for you.
Yeah, I'm going to films every day. Vancouver International Film Festival is on this week, so that's what I've been up to.
And we were talking earlier about Whistler Film Festival, and just before that, you start working on your new project. Can you talk a little bit about your new project that you start filming in November?
Sure, it's called The Chinatown Diner. It's by Lawrence the Lamb. It's a hip-hop musical art house crime drama set in Chinatown in Vancouver against the backdrop of the real estate crisis and underground hip-hop. So it's by Lawrence the Lamb, who I worked with previously in Crazy8s, because I ran Vancouver's leading short film competition, Crazy8s, for 9 years. And when I was there, we put in the application for Telefilm, Talent to Watch government funding for this project, Chinatown Diner, and we got it. Although we got it right before COVID, so we've been delayed for a couple of years. So we're finally going to camera this November 2023. It's a full feature film, and I'm executive producing it. Thomas Offalter's producing it with Lynn Lee, and Lawrence the Lamb is directing it.
That's amazing. That must be a relief, but at the same time, lots of nerves because, you know, the project's been in the making for some time, finally getting the cameras rolling, cast and everything. That must feel really great. Now, you've been involved in over 80 projects. Like, wow, that's a very astonishing number.
Well, that's because I'm older, so there's lots of time to do them in. The longer you live, there's more projects. They just add up. Yeah, I mean, it's partly because of the contest I ran for Crazy8s and the Hot Shot Shorts contest, which I ran through Celluloid Social Club. So through those, I've made 60-something short films. And then I've also produced other short films on top of that, and music videos, as you said, and web videos, and TV commercials, and 6 feature films, and 20 plays.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's actually closer to 100, I think, when you add in all the plays as well, so yeah.
That's an incredible resume right there. Now, did you always like to ask everyone this? Did you always know that you wanted to be in the industry? You wanted to make films, make movies, direct, produce. Is that something that was in the cards for you all along? You knew as a kid, or did you get into the industry accidentally? Yeah,
no, when I was younger, although I tried to make a war movie when I was like 8 years old. We never finished it, but so I had some inclination.
Did you say a war movie?
Yeah,
at 8 years at 8 years
old?
Yeah,
yeah. We filmed part of it, but we didn't finish it. So I had an inclination to make films when I was young, but I never thought it was going to be a career. I was more interested in history, museums, living history museums, enacting historical scenarios in museums. I studied history in university. In high school, I got the highest mark in BC for history. Got a scholarship to UBC, studied history there. Went on to England, continued to study history. But then when I was in England, I started getting involved in the Theatre Society because I knew I wanted to somehow bring the past to life, and you need actors and drama and stories to do that. So I started getting involved in the Theatre Society, the drama department at the University of York in England, and through that we went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival with Guys and Dolls, full musical production, and I was even acting in something and conducting a workshop. And so that was my beginning in theater, but before that I had no intention of going to theater, and so I just sort of fell into it there. And then for film, I thought it was just going to be theater. That was my first love. But then I came back to Vancouver, and it's such a film town, I just naturally progressed to it as well as theater. And the only person I knew in the biz was someone in casting, and so they called me up to the studio and said, okay, let's give you it was Corinne Mayer's X-Files. She was a family friend, and so she said, okay, I'll give you a screen test to see if you can act, and then if so, I'll give you an audition. So anyway, so I did the screen test. She said, okay, you passed that. Now the audition, and it was for a guest starring role on X-Files. Yeah, and but I didn't get it because I went to Tony Shalhoub, one of a great actor. But she auditioned me for something else on that show. But I had no training, so I didn't know how to block. So I just said my lines in front of Chris Carter and all the producers. So I just walked into the room and just recited my line. I didn't know I had to like pretend to pull out my gun. I was a police officer. Anyway, so I didn't get that. But they gave me a glorified background part with David Duchovny for one scene. So that was my first thing I ever did in film.
Wow.
So scene with Duchovny.
I was such a fan of X-Files, and to be
Oh,
honest, when me and my family moved to Canada, one of the reasons why I wanted to move here, I was like, X-Files is filmed in Vancouver.
Yeah, it added a lot of electricity to the city back then, back in the 90s. It put us on the map for film, Hollywood North. That cemented us.
That's a great
that
story,
was my great
though.
experience in film.
And then how did you get into producing?
Well, then what happened was I started work at the Vancouver Film School, assistant to the head of film program, and through that I was production managing the films and getting them out to festivals, and so it was sort of my taste. But even then, actually, I wasn't thinking of producing. I was in the art department in a feature from the students after I finished. So I was thinking of going to the art department. I art directed a short film at the school, and so that was my intention. I didn't even take a producing course. I took other courses there for free. Anyway, the point is I wasn't thinking of producing. I was more interested in the art side of it. But then I then got into theater. I then started working with a theater company with the producers of Tony and Tina's Wedding, which was Vancouver's longest. I was the publicist for Tony and Tina's Wedding, the longest running play in Vancouver's history. So I was the publicist in the early days for that. And then I worked on other productions with that same company that they were doing. But at the same time, I was working at the Vancouver Film School. While I was there, someone came into my office and he said, I'm a manager at a bar and I'd like to start showing indie films to try to get people to come in. And I was thinking, indie films? He wants to show Indian films? Indian films? This is like in the 90s before like indie was a real thing. And so I thought he was talking about Indian films, but he meant indie films. So then I started showing student films from the school once a week at Popeye's Bar and Grill in Kitsilano. We showed them on film. And then that was the very first start of my film screenings. And then that progressed eventually to the Celluloid Social Club a couple years later in '97 when I started the Celluloid Social Club with a couple others. Kathy Black is now gone.
And for those who don't know, can you tell us about Celluloid Social Club? Yeah,
so it combines both films and social. Celluloid Social. Celluloid means film for all the new people out there that don't know what it is, that only know digital. Celluloid is film. So back in the day we showed film and then we also socialized. So I haven't done a show for 4 years, but basically the way it works is we show the films and then do a Q&A with the filmmakers, and there's networking before and after. And I've had all sorts of amazing guests there. Robin Williams came by one time.
No way!
Yeah. One of my friends knew him, and he even brought a film to show. And I've had...
That must have been a hoot.
Oh, yeah.
What film did he bring?
Well, it was actually someone he knew who did a fringe play in Dublin, and so he brought a film of the play.
Okay.
But he arrived too late to show it at the screening, so we watched it in the bar downstairs afterwards. Yeah.
It's Robin Williams.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And we had pretty much every major BC director, but we also had guests from around the world, like Andrew Lou Golden, the guy who discovered the Rolling Stones. He was the first manager and producer. We showed a Rolling Stones film of his, and we had like 300 people at that. We had Bruce McDonald. He would show his features that he couldn't show elsewhere at our club. It was sort of the underground scene back in the late 90s. But I'll be starting it up again. I took a break during COVID. I didn't want to do an online version because it's such a social thing. So I want to. And
it's great for the local art scene, for the film industry, and for everyone to come together and celebrate, connect, network.
Oh yeah.
You know, always like I find like film festivals and events like yours or like First Weekend Club. I remember that,
which I used to produce for 5 years.
Exactly, I remember that. Yeah. You know, they're a great way for the community to get together, and you never know who you're going to meet, and you could be working on a project or acting or creating or doing something together. Yeah,
because it leads to other productions.
So tell me about, like, obviously these are, you know, passion projects, but you were able to get like funding for these projects. But what was it like?
Not all of them.
Not all of them, but what was it like for you to put these events together? Because, you know, in Vancouver, certainly, like in the film industry, if I say Paul, you know, they know Paul Armstrong. Like, you know, like you are very much embedded in the scene here when it comes to the local entertainment, film and television industry.
Yes.
Tell me about the experience of it, like, and how did that make you feel?
Well, good, because as much as bringing projects to fruition, I also like bringing people together. So I always like to have a social component to the screenings. I think people often go to these films because they want the social component. They want to meet people, not just watch the film. So I've always made sure to have that side of it as well. And I think I partly became a leader in the indie community just because that's what I stuck to. So many people start off in the indie community and then they go more mainstream, working on TV series. But as a producer, I never wanted to do service work for American productions in Vancouver. I was always focused just on, because for me, film was more art-based than commerce. So I was more driven by art and commerce in the films that I got involved in. It was mostly my friends, and I wanted to help them create their vision. And so it's just longevity. I just stuck to it, and then it's also the great people that I've worked with. A great team. Just making sure you know how to pick the right people and get a good team together.
I have fond memories of festival season with Paul. You know, we would go to all these events, and it would be from one to the next, the next, the next. But it's truly, like, you know, such a community, beautiful community in Vancouver when it comes to the art scene, and during the film festival season when you're getting out and about and getting to meet people and really making those connections when you're seeing, you know, people at events or at, you know, events like yours. Now, I remember you had quite a bit of success with Lawrence and Holloman.
Yes. Yeah, that was a...
That was a project you produced.
Yes, I produced that. Daniel Arnold, Matthew Kowalczyk wrote it, and Daniel Arnold starred in it, Matthew Kowalczyk directed it, and it was a telefilm film. It was based on a play by Governor General award-winning playwright Morris Penich, and I'd seen it at the Arts Club Theatre in '99 when I was producing Vancouver's second leading talk show, Daytime, and so I knew about the work, and so they approached me about it, and I said, sure, let's try to get the funding. It took a couple of years to get the funding. We got the money from Telefilm, and then we shot it, and it did really well on the festival circuit. Won all sorts. It won Best Emerging Director at the Vancouver Film Festival, and Matthew and I went to Shanghai Film Festival with it, and it was screening 300 people, sold out. It's a comedy, so we didn't know if it would translate, but people were laughing. And then we got up on stage after, and they handed us flowers, and then there were these two big guys on the other side of us. Who are these guys? Those are your bodyguards. And then afterwards, everyone wanted our autographs and pictures. And so, yeah, I was just amazed that this local low-budget feature was able to translate so well around the world to festivals. It played, for a year, so played on TV, of course, and it's done really well.
That's truly amazing.
Yeah.
Now, you go to festivals such as Cannes Film Festival.
Yes.
You've been to several times.
10 times. Yeah.
No joke. I have to catch up to you. I've only been once. So you've been there with projects.
Yeah, yes.
So can you tell us about your work, your projects you've shown at Cannes?
Well, the very first year I went, I'd worked on a project, and it was in the market, and the people involved couldn't go, so I was their representative. So I got all hooked up with a major talent agency and got invites to, well, I used Nick Nolte's invite for the NSYNC party. I went on the Victoria's Secret's boat cruise, and I was all the...
Excuse me?
Yeah, I was at all, I managed to get into all the...
That's a tough life.
Yeah, well... Yeah,
making everyone in Vancouver jealous.
Well, that was 23 years ago, back when Cannes was a little bit different. That was before, before things changed. It was a little bit different back then. But and then I've been back 10 times since with projects, never though in the festival, because that's very difficult. Although the very first short film I produced was shortlisted for Cannes 2 weeks before we found out it didn't get in, but it almost got in. But I'm mostly there pitching projects. I've had screenings in the market where people from around the world will come into the small theater, get a taste of the film, often leave partway through, whether they like it or not. They do that. And then I've sold films through that, by showing it in the market. And then I've also had films in the short film corner, especially the Talent to Watch, for 5 years in a row when I was producing Crazy8s. That means the films are picked by Telefilm as the top short films in Canada, and then they're screened in a special program in Cannes. And I went over there, we had a film of that for 5 years in a row from the Not Short on Talent program. And so
I think I came to that. You invited me in Cannes. I remember coming to see the short films. Yeah.
So it's shorts and features I used to go there for, and
that's amazing.
But I also love seeing the films. That's my favorite part of Canada, is actually watching all the great films that they program there.
And it's certainly such a vibe when you're there at the festival with everyone from. It's the biggest media festival in the world. Yeah. And everyone is there. The buzz is really happening. I remember when I was there that year, we were filming at this Monaco Better World Forum. Like, I think it was at the Carlton. I believe that's where this gala was. And in came like Chris Tucker, and I quickly grabbed him for the interview. And I was like, I need to get this interview. Because you have celebrities and actors and everyone from everywhere, from Bollywood to Hollywood, everyone there, and you're just like, you know, trying to get those bites. But it's certainly such a vibe. It's so energizing and inspiring. Right away, I kind of want to ask you because you've had such a career. Like, you know, with, you know, ranging from like music videos to feature films, indies, plays, and being involved here, like, you know, in the scene in Vancouver, but also traveling internationally with your projects. For anyone watching out there, you know, who perhaps wants to be a producer or a director or even an actor, like, what advice would you give to them? I'm sure you get asked this question a lot.
I think mentors are important. Find people that you can learn from. Although I didn't really have a film mentor. I had a theater mentor, but not a film mentor. I sort of had to learn that as I went along on the job. But it's partly by attaching great people that have already done, like, so if you're working as a producer, work with like an executive producer that's done it before. That's partly how I've learned for producing, is actually working with executive producers. And so I think it's all to do with your team who you're putting together. And so get some senior people you can learn from, and then some new people you can train and turn. So I think it's a lot to do with the people that is involved. And advice is just get out there and do it. Network. People often are shy and don't want to do that. But for me, I've always found that important. A lot of the projects I worked on is because of the people I knew. They were friends, and I knew them in the industry because of going to things. And that's how the Celluloid Social Club came about, because the people I'd met at the cold reading series that I then started that with. So much of it is social. But of course you have to do the hard work at home on your computer when no one's looking too. That's research,
because that is
like the bulk
shiny
of the work.
Part.
Yeah.
The paperwork.
Yeah.
Like last night I'm doing, you know, figuring out all the details.
Oh yeah. Sometimes you forget there's even film there. Sometimes I've been doing so much paperwork for a feature film, I forget, oh yeah, there's a film in there somewhere, because there's so much application forms and tax forms and just everything, and you just forget after a while, oh yeah, I'm making a film. I'm not just generating paperwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, correct me if I'm wrong. You don't have like formal film school training.
No, because I never considered going into film when I was in university. The closest I came was when I worked at the Vancouver Film School, because then I was able to take courses for free. So I did take a writing course, publicity course, and art direction course. So that's the closest I came to training, but no producer course. So no, I just had to learn on the job.
I feel like most of the really amazing, successful, and talented people from all walks of life that I've met, it's the passion. You know, it's the desire to create and excel at what you love. Like I had Dawn Chabay here, and you know, she was talking about, she's like, I barely graduated high school. I was like, welcome to the club, hallelujah, you know. But she talked about how she accidentally stumbled upon an audition. You know, they asked her to be a weather presenter, and no formal training, not whatsoever, but she won compared to the other people. she got the gig because her personality and the vibe. And I feel you certainly have that.
Yeah, although I don't want to discount education, because I went
to
I went to university for 8 years.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
But I do find like a very interesting people I meet. I don't want to discount education at all.
Yeah.
But sometimes someone can have that inherent skill, you know, that's just the natural.
Well, there's some
gift.
jobs there's no specific training for, right?
Like doctors.
Like I would never want to go to university for 4 years to learn to be a producer. Like so much of it is tedious enough. I prefer to study other things that are more interesting and then just do the work, but not actually learn about it or study about it. I just want to do it and get it over with, not dwell on it.
Has there been anyone that you worked with that really gave you the big aha feeling that you're like, oh my God, someone pinched me. I can't believe I'm working with this person right now?
Well, there's definitely some big actors that I've worked with.
Can you name drop?
Sure.
Feel free.
Well, one of the big features I did was Moving Malcolm by Ben Ratner, and we had Elizabeth Berkley starring in it from Saved by the Bell and Showgirls, so she was a star of that one. So, yeah, she was amazing to work with. So that was a joy to work with her. That was a Telefilm funded $1 million film that Ben Ratner wrote, directed, and starred in.
That's amazing.
Produced, yeah, and that did well on the festival circuit too. And yeah, there's just been pretty much every actor that I see out there. I think I'd love to work with them someday. And then eventually, it seems like I have. Like one story is like William B. Davis, Cancer Man and X-Files. I remember I actually worked in his agent's office for a week. And I remember he was on the phone to the head agent. I was thinking, wow, he's talking to William B. Davis. And then later, I produced William B. Davis's play. So later on, I was able to actually work with them. So it's like when you're younger, these people are on a pedestal, and then later on, you get to work with them. So
that's so cool. We're actually working on getting him here.
Oh,
yes.
Well, I can help.
Okay, fabulous. Well, I know his PR, so Leslie.
Yeah, and he's got a play opening in a couple of weeks.
Oh, bravo! Well, just in time. You know, it was the last show when I was doing, and we were working on getting him in, and I think he was working on something at the time. So now, no, that would be such a dream because I was such a fan of the X-Files. Oh my goodness, such a fan. Anyone else that you had an amazing experience with on set? Well, there's lots of great actors that like local actors. Babs Chula, did a couple films with her. She's gone now, but and Nicholas Lee and Jay Brazeau, and I was on Moving Malcolm, and then through Crazy8s, I got to work with all sorts of amazing actors like Lauren Cardinal. He was in one of the Crazy8s films, and pretty much every year we had Canadian star talent in them, so it was fun working with all of them. And the list is endless of the people. Yeah, I'm sure as you're going, you're going to think of like so many different names.
Yeah.
I remember there was a while back we were talking, and you were working on a documentary.
Yes.
About the 60s.
Yes, that's when we're Yes, that was with Carl Ferris. He was the album photographer for Jimi Hendrix. And so we got money from a company, and we filmed for a month in California, a month in Europe, and a month in Hawaii, and did 80 interviews with everyone from
life.
Well, yeah. No, not that year. That was a great life.
No, I'm joking.
With we filmed Donovan and Willie Nelson and John Densmore from The Doors and Mick Fleetwood, and it goes on and on. But the film still has to be completed because the funders went under, unfortunately. They got caught in a penny stock manipulation.
So all this footage is just sitting there?
Yes.
Oh, and you can't release it?
Well, we can't release it because we need the money to for music rights and B-roll footage. And but I did do an assembly edit of it, so I actually do have a version of it, but until we get more money to actually finish it. But we're in talks with a streamer right now to try to get some more money to finally finish it. Yeah.
Fantastic. I remember when you started working on that project.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Any highlights of your career that you'd like to share with us that, you know, that really stand out for you over the years? I know, like, obviously going to Cannes, not just once, not just twice, but 10 times. Like, that is certainly a bit of a big deal.
And the Toronto Film Festival had a feature that premiered at the Toronto Film Festival.
Which feature was that?
It's called Ill-Fated by Mark Lewis.
Okay.
and that was, well, it was almost 20 years ago now. We had so many people from the cast and crew in Vancouver go that we had a school bus, and they said this is the biggest turnout of any cast and crew for any film at TIFF. So we had about 40 people on stage during the Q&A. And then another highlight was when I produced, as I said, Daytime, a talk show with Michael Eckford, Fiona Forbes.
Okay, yes.
So I produced that for a year.
We've had Fiona here.
Oh, no way.
I did not know you produced that. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, we had all sorts of amazing guests. Like one regular guest was Michael Bublé back in the late 90s.
Can you get Michael in here?
Well,
we've had Fiona here. You know, we have you
here. See what we can do? Yeah. So I got to meet like pretty much cross-section of like everyone at the time that was like in the arts and music. And
that must have been amazing, because that show was just like, you know, everyone knew about that show. Everyone knew about Fiona and Michael, and like everyone watched that show.
One of the highlights is when I got Quiet Riot on, and Mike and Fiona got to sing along with them on the song. Yeah. But that was, yeah, I did that for a year. But then I didn't want to, actually that's when I transitioned into film, because I wanted to move from TV into film. So that was, I did that for a year. But the culmination of that was me going down to LA to go to the musician Beck's family barbecue in '99, because he was on our show. His brother was on our show. The musician Beck's brother was on the show. So then I went down to LA to go to their summer party. And then after that, I then started working with a film company, and that's when I did my first feature in 2000, and it was the first, or one of the first, HD features shot in Canada in January 2000, Exiles in Paradise. And so that played on Super Channel, but that was, yeah, one of the first HD features in Canada.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I was just associate producer on that one.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So Whistler Film Festival is coming up.
Yeah.
I've never been to Whistler. What advice would what advice would you give?
I've been to every single one of them.
Wow. Okay. I remember like 10 plus years ago we'd finished with, and you were like, okay, you're coming to Whistler, what's going to happen? And you know, we're hoping to film our show up in Whistler.
Yeah, you have to.
So what advice would you give to us as first timers at the Whistler Film Festival?
Well, book early, because it's very popular. And it's a very manageable festival, because it's just the right size where you can meet everybody. It doesn't feel overwhelming. There's lots of great events and films. Yeah, and it gets people from all around the world, especially from Eastern Canada and LA. And so it's a great place for networking. And bring your toque, because it can get cold. And just make sure you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But back in the early days, it was actually being run out of my office in Vancouver. The person who founded it rented a desk from me back in the early days when she was starting it. And so, yeah, she was getting it going while I was working in the office 22 years ago.
And now it's doing so well. I did not know about that story.
Yeah.
That's
and this year I was a pre-screener and watched 400 short films for it.
400?
Yeah.
Wow.
Just 400.
How long did that take?
It took 5 weeks altogether.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, goodness.
Yeah.
My eyes would be burning after that.
Oh, yeah.
What advice would you give to, like, you know, actors out there, especially, you know, under the current atmosphere, to be creative, to stay positive, to stay inspired these days? They
can do their own films or theater. A lot of the plays that I produced were actually funded by the actors. So they were in TV series, and then they wanted a creative outlet and also to showcase their talents that maybe they can't showcase on network TV. And so they would then fund the plays, and I would produce them. So I did about like 7 or 8 plays from from actors, prominent actors in town that wanted to showcase. So I think if they get together and put on a play, that's a great way to get their name further out there, or again, make short films to start with, or features if they can have the time, get that together. And then it's also networking is important, going to events like my Celluloid Social Club, going to Crazy8s, going to VIF, just getting out there as much as they can. And saying yes to things, because I find there's some actors that are in TV series and then they don't do indies because they feel they're maybe above it, or because it doesn't pay, or for whatever reason. But I think they should just say yes, because that's what I did in my early days. Whenever someone asked me to produce something, I just said yes. I probably wouldn't have done like half the things I had if I thought about it too much. I just said yes, I'll do it, and just did everything. So I think That's good advice for an actor too. If they're
It's interesting you're
unless they
saying
don't believe
that,
in the
because
project, of
I've had
course.
several people on the show, you know, from TV hosts to actors to personalities, who mentioned that their motto is saying yes, because you don't know what's going to come from that.
Yeah,
You
I always
don't
find
know-
one project leads to another one.
Yes, completely.
Yeah, and you
That's
meet people.
us with this show,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I tried to bring you here on the last show,
Right.
and you know our schedules didn't quite align, and then voila, here we are.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, but of course they have to believe in the project. They can't just do it just for the sake of it. But yeah, I think so if they've got the time and the energy, then they should do it.
Have there been any movies that you've seen over the years? You know, maybe not the ones that you've been involved in, but other than that, that really left a profound mark on you, that made you want to create something like that, or to go on to stretch yourself as a producer? Has there been something like that, like whether it's a movie or a book that you read that really left a mark that our audience can perhaps watch?
Well, it's funny you say book, because that's actually my main passion, is reading and book collecting, even more than film watching. And
I did not know that.
yeah, yeah. So I actually read more. During the pandemic, pretty much I didn't watch any TV or movies for almost a year.
Unlike the rest of us who were glued to
yeah,
Netflix.
Yeah, and then when I watched my first thing after almost a year, I couldn't even like mentally process a two-dimensional image on a screen moving. I had to my brain had to figure out how to absorb that again. It had been so long, because all I did was read.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, because I think that's critical for anyone in the arts, is to have a basic foundation of storytelling, the great stories, foremost in epic and book form, and then go from that to learning about.
So then you can recommend a few books for us.
Oh yeah.
Over the holiday season, or perhaps, you know, winter time. I'm so glad that you're mentioning that, because I think I have all these books sitting here, but only a few of them I've read. It's about finding time, but there's something so special about sitting there holding a book, because we're just on our screens all the time, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and I do read the book. I don't read it electronically, although I listen to them sometimes. But
I'm really into audiobooks.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but there's something really special about slowing down.
Oh yeah.
Cup of tea. Turning the page.
And it's mentally stimulating, because you're creating the image in your brain of what you're reading. But that's not to discount films, because, and that's another thing about film, is that
before we move to films, sorry to interrupt you. I do want to ask any books that you would recommend to us.
Well, I'd say yes. On the other hand, the books I read are probably not going to be overly enjoyable to read, because they're mostly historical, like epics, like Iliad and the Odyssey, or Don Quixote, or Dante's Divine Comedy, or Virgil's Aeneid.
Did you see my painting over there?
No. Oh, Don Quixote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So that's basically what I read, are the great classics. But not only, I read philosophy and literature, or religion as well. Over the pandemic, I read the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
That's so fascinating.
Anyway, so
that's
I tried
truly
to,
fascinating.
Yeah, I try to read from all over the world, not just Western cultures. So.
Expanding.
Yeah. 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 So for me, that's what I enjoy most is reading, but I also, of course, love film too. And so I think something important for anyone in the film industry is to learn the classics of film as well. So what I did was, every week I rented a movie, back when they had DVD stores, which they still have one in Vancouver, or you can find it on streaming, but just to watch all the classic films and get versed in that, so you're not necessarily repeating over and over again the development of film. I think to move forward, you have to know what came before. It's not necessarily to copy it, but to advance the art form. But yeah, I know so many people that don't know the great classics of film making, but those films are out there, and I think they need to see them. If you just watch one a week in a year, you can pretty much watch all the great classics.
Any that you would recommend?
Well, I especially like the films from the 60s, the new wave, like Michelangelo Antonioni, Blow Up. That's my favorite film. I actually saw him at Cannes one year. He sat in front of me when he was screening his final film. and so it's a lot of those, like Godard and a lot of those Breathless, and so a lot of those films from that transition to the new wave, the indie scene, all the great American classics from the 60s and 70s. For me, that's my favorite era to watch films from. But I also love mysteries from the 40s, film noir, and but a lot of the early classics too. Nosferatu and
that we went to
Cabinet
see
Dr. Caligari.
The 100-year anniversary of Nosferatu last year.
Right.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And it was quite a beautiful experience during VIFF, Vancouver International Film Festival, because it was
accompanied by music.
Yes, and it was shown at a church.
Right.
The screening was at a church with live music, and you had this interesting lighting, and quite an experience.
So I think people need to know the whole history of cinema in order to be part of it. You feel like you're more part of it. Like if you're, you feel like you're in a great tradition, and you can make, it's inspiring. You can make films like that. You see that they made them, and you can make them too. I get the same feeling when I go to Cannes, when I go to these film festivals. You see all these stars and great directors that made films, and you might have a film in it too, and so if they can do it, you can do it too.
I love that. I actually have a friend who I met at Cannes, and we became friends because I interviewed him. Sadly, the sound was totally off, so his interview, we couldn't, it didn't go anywhere. But Darren Darnborough, I think you invited me to his re-audition party because you guys were going. And he invited me. I was like, oh, I don't know. But then you were like, we're going to this event. And that's where I showed up. I missed my train because I was staying in Antibes, and it was... I missed, the train was literally every hour. Anyways, but that led to this friendship, and that, so many doors that open, because you never know what's going to happen. And that's what Darren is always inspiring me to do, is he's because he's going to Berlin and Venice and South by Southwest, Sundance, and, all these different festivals. And he's like, Zara, it always, leads to something. Going to this, I was just in Paris for Fashion Week, and it's aligning work with that, and then it always more doors open. So that's a great way of thinking, and then getting inspired. So
I've got a funny story about that.
Yeah,
for Sundance.
please tell us.
So for a film I did, Ill Fated, it screened at Slam Dance, which is sort of the indie side of Sundance. It's not the same festival, but it's sort of like the Salon de Refuse that don't get into Sundance. I had a film screening there, and while it was screening, it was on film, it jumped off the platter with 5 minutes left in the film and turned into spaghetti. The film just went everywhere in the projection room, and so I remembered, I've got a DVD copy of it. So I saw the founder of the festival there with his laptop. I said, put the laptop down on the stage. So I put the DVD in, and everyone in the theater crowded around and watched the last 5 minutes on the laptop. I took a picture of them doing that. I went back to the hotel room, wrote a press release, sent the picture, and it was the lead story not just of Slam Dance but of Sundance that day, and it partly resulted in us then getting a distributor who then saw all this commotion. So
bravo.
Yeah. So you can make
your PR pass coming in handy,
exactly.
and you have to just run with it.
Yeah.
What do you feel has been the secret sauce to your success?
I think integrity for one thing. Also just stamina, just keep going. There's always rejections, of course, funding rejections and all sorts of things, but you just have to keep idealistic and like an ever-ready battery, just keep going. It's partly to do with energy. So many people just give up because they run out of energy or hope, but I've
often heard that it's always if you can stick around for 5 to 10 years, whoever is around for the longest, you are bound to find success. It is bound to happen.
Well, because you've also burned all your bridges. You have no other career to go to. You have nothing left to pursue. So that's part of it. Yeah, because I've been in the industry since 1995.
Since you were 5.
Thank you. Yeah.
And for, I've asked you this before about advice for aspiring, filmmakers and actors, anything else that you would like to share with them before
there's lots of great contests out there. So Crazy8s. I ran Crazy8s, the short film competition where people had to make a film in 8 days and then would screen for the biggest audience in Vancouver. So these contests are amazing for writers, directors, producers, actors to get their work out there. So I think that's one great thing is competitions. There's the run and gun. I used to run the Hot Shot Shorts contest. Maybe I'll start that up again. But just look out there for contests. That's a great way to get out there. Forces you to make your film. You have no room
I feel like that's also advice
Yeah.
from myself, because I've been to a few of them, and even same with like Celluloid or First Weekend Club, gone to a few, but I really want to get more immersed myself as well, like you know, acting wise, but also seeing that how I can write or create something or like produce or direct something.
Well, people that work in Vancouver are lucky because it's very collaborative compared to some other cities. Like maybe people compare it to LA or Toronto, which may be more competitive, but people in Vancouver are lucky because it's more collaborative and they are able to make their films together more easily. They're indie projects, so don't be shy about.
Especially, I feel like right now is such a great time to be like,
it's
okay,
a little bit of downtime.
Yeah, what are we gonna do? I feel like everyone I talk to right now is like either writing something or doing something over the weekend or doing.
I'm actually writing something.
Oh, you are? Okay, well, available actor over here, Paul Armstrong.
Keep that in mind. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay. What is next for you? I know you start your project in November. You're starting your feature.
Yeah.
And what are your hopes for this new project, which sounds truly amazing?
Yeah. Well, we're hoping to get into all the great festivals, TIFF and VIFF and Whistler and who knows, maybe Cannes. But yeah, hopefully it'll play well on the festival circuit and then eventually television, streaming. So we're hoping it gets a wide audience because the filmmaker is very talented. His past films have done really well. Cypher, he made for Crazy8s, which I still think is one of the best Crazy8s films. Anyway, so we're hoping it gets a wide audience. Yeah.
What would you say has been one of the most defining moments of your career?
I think
something that truly stands out.
Well, I think some of the features that I've done, like these big features like Moving Malcolm that did really well on the festival circuit and played all over the world, and that daytime talk show, and running Crazy8s for 9 years, and Celluloid Social Club for 25 years. So that, yeah, I'm proud of that, the fact that I helped start that and kept it going. Although I haven't done one since before the pandemic, but I will be starting that up again, so people should look out for that. I will start that up again. So
when are we expecting for that to get started?
Well, either in November or early in 2024.
Okay.
Yeah. Once I get
and where? What will be the location?
Yeah, it's at the Anza Club in Vancouver.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, people just can go to the Facebook page, Celluloid Social Club. They'll find out there.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What would you say inspires you in life, Paul?
Things that I haven't done yet.
Such
That's what
as?
keeps me going.
Care to share with our audience?
Well, this thing I am writing, so I'm hoping that eventually well, I'm writing it first as a book, but it can be adapted into a TV series. So that keeps me going, something that I'm working on my own. But
How long have you been working on that?
Well, a couple of years.
Okay.
These things take a while. Yeah, I didn't have much time until the pandemic hit, and then I had a lot of time during the pandemic to really get a good start on it. Yeah.
Is it a piece of fiction?
Yes.
Okay.
It's fiction. Yes. Yeah.
But you're tight-lipped about the rest. You're like, once it comes out, you can buy the book.
That's right. That's another rule of writing and filmmaking, is don't talk about it until you have those first few steps of it becoming real.
Until the contract is signed. Even with our show, I was like, until the I was pretty happy, when we were getting back up, we were asked to do this show on a longer, contract. Like, definitely an honor to be able to bring people who I find inspiring in Vancouver, the movers and shakers, and people I want to have conversations with. And I do think that our audience would appreciate these conversations as well, and really dig deep instead of just like a 5 to 10 minute piece, like really going in depth and, getting into the mind, into the psyche of the artists, the athletes, the actors, the performers.
Well, someone needs to interview you too then.
Yeah, maybe after we're done,
Yeah.
you know, who knows? Yeah, but it's truly inspiring for me because it energizes me, and I feel like I get this concentrated juice, you know, this positive energy, this infectious energy from every guest who comes on here, and they bring a piece of wisdom, you know, to me and hopefully to our audience who is watching, because I feel like it gives me that inspiration to go out there and make something and do something and to take a risk, to take a chance, to believe, and to be an artist. It's all about that. Like you said, you know, it's playing the long game, and it's taking a chance and not allowing rejection, which as an artist, you know, as an actor, you would think you'd get used to rejection, but it's like, I mean, yes, now, like once I'm done, you know what I used to do, Paul? I wouldn't even delete my audition tapes because I was so attached to them. But now I'm like, no, even if it was a great tape, just delete it. You didn't book the job. It's okay. It's okay.
You
can
can
part with this. Yeah, right? Maybe I should. But I had to make space on my phone. So while in Paris, I deleted so many auditions, including some really big sci-fi projects. But I've signed an NDA, so I can't like say. But you know, that were shot in Canada. I'll leave it to your imagination.
But the thing you said about inspiration, that has actually been the thread of what I have tried to do in my career, is inspire people to make their own projects. So I think if you can tie it all together, that was my main mantra, is to show people that they can do it themselves, that they can do it. Yeah.
And go past their own limits. So what you were saying earlier is that what inspires you is everything that you want to do. I haven't heard that, but I truly love that. So other than finishing your book project, what else would you like to add to that?
Travel more, keep traveling. I find inspiration in traveling, and just keep reading every book that I haven't read yet. Keeps me going, and yeah, and seeing people again. It's great after a couple of years of, so people are inspiring too. So it's great catching up with everyone again. Yeah,
in Vancouver, you know, you came to my beach little birthday when it was a bit of a sandstorm, but it's always nice to be able to get together, you know, with your peers and talk. And I think it's through talking, that heart-to-heart connection, where we can, you know, come together and be like, yes, I have time. I want to do something on an evening or a weekend, or let's put this thing together, or like, let's just make content, whether it's just for social media or making a short film. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Paul, for taking the time to join us today. Before we let you go, because our show is filmed here in Vancouver, I love to ask all of our guests, what do you love about living in Vancouver?
What I enjoy about Vancouver is I know it sounds cliche, but it's the nature. So some parts of the city, I'm very nostalgic. So many parts of the city that I knew when I grew up here are gone. And so more and more I'm drawn.
Such as?
Well, all the houses I've lived in, all the schools I've gone to, parts of my neighborhood. So yeah, pretty much Vancouver's such a development town. I just feel like the city's becoming gutted from my history. Anyway, so I'm always drawn to going out into the wilderness around Vancouver. And there's one place I always go to, that's in North Van, to Kate's Park, Dollarton Beach. That's sort of my getaway. So for me, being able to get away quickly into nature to find inspiration, for me, that's like what I love most about Vancouver.
And nature is so healing. I feel like I didn't really know this abundance, this beauty that we have around us until I came back from Paris, because I was living there before COVID. And you know, the lockdown here and the fact that we have this gorgeous seawall, we have these amazing hikes, these beautiful mountains, and how nice it is to get out of downtown, to have that quiet. You know, there's something spectacular that happens to your nervous system when you're out in the woods. Well, you know, with my dog, with Loki, I love going up there. Kate's Park is a place I truly want to go because they have amazing canoeing and kayaking over there.
I go there because my inspiration for a lot of the stuff I'm doing is through Malcolm Lowry, who was the greatest writer ever to live in Vancouver. And he lived at Dollarton on the beach for 14 years and wrote Under the Volcano there. So I'm a big Malcolm Lowry fan, and so that's partly why I go there for, to commune with Malcolm Lowry.
Well, you'll have to invite me and Loki next time. So we can come on a little outdoor nature adventure with you. Is there another trail or another place that you love to go that you'd like to share with our audience?
Out towards UBC, the Endowment Lands, Jericho.
Pacific Spirit Park. I love it there. Like Loki loves it there too. Yeah, the when
Museum
you go
of Anthropology
towards,
area.
When you go towards Jericho, because I had my birthday over there. It's truly magical, like that area, and especially during the week when it's not that crowded. It's so serene. Like you truly feel like in the summertime, or even in winter, it doesn't even feel like Vancouver. I feel like I'm in, I don't know, in Hawaii or something. And the fact that we have all of this right here.
Yeah, it's also inspiring if you're an artist, to give you the peace of mind that you need to do your work. I find it inspirational for that. But that's not to say I also, of course, also enjoy Vancouver for all the people that are here, right? All the great artists that are living in Vancouver, and the chances to meet up with them and see their work. So of course, there's two sides of it, and so, but there needs to be a balance.
Completely, because we have the social aspect, and then we have to like recharge. It's the
point is, there's places in Vancouver to be alone. In so many cities, you can never be alone. There's so many people everywhere, but in Vancouver, you can have both.
It's certainly a special place. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Very excited, and congratulations.
Thank you.
On your new project, on your new feature film. Again, just sharing that, available actor over here for your new film. And also there's a doggo over here. You guys need a little stunt dog who's really beautiful with white eyelashes and beautiful blue eyes. Loki's available.
I'll check in with the writers.
Yes, Loki is available for hire. So that
he's very well behaved on set.
He
passed his audition. He's passed his audition.
He's good right now. You should have seen him this morning. So, he's had a few walks today. Well, very excited for you, Paul.
Thank you.
And it's, truly remarkable, the career that you've had and the body of work. And I think one of the things I truly admire about you is your humility, is your warmth. And, you have certainly inspired me quite a bit over the years. And, pushed me out of my comfort zone, whether it was in Cannes or like here during WIF, and getting me to, go to this thing, go to that, get involved more. And I find that certainly very remarkable about you, and also the fact that you're very community-driven individual. Community is something that's really important to you. So I certainly look up to you for that. Paul, not only have you produced plays and features and TV shows, but also music videos for Biff Naked. I had Biff Naked on my first national television show. And what a remarkable interview. We were all so moved on the set with her. Which music video did you produce for her?
It was for a film called Crossing, directed by Roger Larry, who I recently worked with on another music documentary, actually, about Kenny Coleman, who was a jazz singer. Died a number of years ago, but he was the mentor to Michael Bublé, and so it was called Cool Daddy for CBC documentary channel. Roger directed it, but previous to that, he did a feature called Crossing, and Biff Naked was acting in it, and so I helped produce the music video for promoting the film, and then I worked with her again later when I produced something called the Molson video Big Birthday, and that was for playing across Canada on July 1st, 2001, where we got all the major bands at the time to say Happy Birthday Canada, and then put that in a video along with their music video. And Biff Naked was the overall host of that, but we had like Nelly Furtado and 5440, and it played here in Vancouver in front of Nickelback when they performed at Grouse Mountain in 2001. So Biff Naked was the host of that whole show. So yeah, I produced that. among other music videos.
And she's quite incredible, and what
Oh,
a
yeah.
story she's had. You know, like she shared her entire life story with us
Oh, yeah.
on our first show. I actually really want to get her back here,
Yeah.
back on the red couch.
Yeah.
But I interviewed her back in the day at East and East. Very amazing, you know,
Very personable.
open and truly remarkable and talented. And the fact that, you know, she was an orphan and her parents found her in India, and like she's had this amazing journey and, you know, overcome so much. So
yeah, she was amazing to work with.
and you
Couple
worked
times I
with
have.
Jim Burns.
Yes, many times doing his music videos. Yeah, that was Just a Pilgrim, and I can't remember the other one. That was 15 years ago now. And he's acted in a few of the things I've done as well. And his daughter directed one of the Crazy8s films that I had worked on. And so yeah, I've worked with him many times, and he's
How
amazing
is
as well.
producing music videos different than films and plays?
Well, it's different because you're combining two industries, music and film, and so that became most pronounced when I did a music video for Jeff Martin from the Tea Party, when that whole rock and roll culture collided with the film culture, where they're a bit more loose and we're very time oriented. So he, well, it was rock and roll. That shoot was rock and roll, and you just see the two different. You think, oh, it's all the entertainment industry, but they're very different, music and the film. So it's interesting with music videos because those have to somehow combine to create something together. And so I think maybe that's partly where the energy comes from, having these two different worlds collide. And it's especially true on things like that, where like Jim Burns is also an actor, so it makes it a bit easier on set. But when it's just a pure musician, then it's more challenging. But it also can create a lot of interesting chemistry and electricity.
I think I did a voiceover project with him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, like this is like many years
Oh, with
ago.
Jim Burns?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
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 A very great personality, and his voice is so rich.
Yeah.
And deep.
Yeah. He was also in he was also on a show that I actually acted in, Aardvark. It was on primetime across Canada on VTV and I think CTV, and I was a researcher for it, getting lots of local stars onto this mockumentary back in the day. And then we also created a play version of it. It's called Aardvark, directed by Ken Hegan, who was my first host of the Celluloid Social Club for 10 years. But Jim Burns was in that show as well, so I've worked with him many times.
How do you balance your time, because you have so many different projects going between producing and, you know, Celluloid Social Club and Crazy8s and all? What do your days look like? Like, do you have a set schedule, or do you work when you want to work? Do you find yourself working on the weekends and the evenings? Like, what does your schedule look like?
My schedule used to be that I was working all the time. I used to work every day. I used to work during the day. Well, first of all, I sleep in. I don't set my alarm because I need my sleep. So I just sleep in, then I get up. In the past, then I would just work all day, and then I'd go to something in the evening, to a play or a film or a party. And then I'd come home, and then I'd work till 1 something in the morning, and then do that again. And I used to work on weekends too. This is like back when I was doing like 10 things at the same time. But now I've slowed down, especially since the pandemic. I think a lot of people, their schedules have become a bit more manageable. So I don't work weekends anymore. I don't work in the evenings. I only sort of try to work in the afternoon, and then do my own thing in the mornings when my brain's the most fresh, and then read in the evening.
And more self-care, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Because I think as an artist, as a self-employed person, I find myself, like, that's a challenge I still have, especially because I have so many different things on the go, client work, TV show auditions, just got another one. And, you know, today I just remembered that, oh, I had a voiceover to do, so I'm going in my little storage closet while Julian's setting up. Loki is outside, and I'm just praying he's not gonna bang on the door, because he needs to be right next to me all the time. And, you know, we have our guests coming in 15 minutes. So for me, my life just feels like sometimes I do find it challenging, like balancing all different areas of my life, but I love it. Like being a creative person, of course you want to be busy. Like, you know, you definitely don't want to say to the universe, I'm too busy. I'm so grateful to be busy. But I do certainly find that you know, getting enough sleep, be socializing, time with friends, you know, relaxing when you're not even thinking about networking, you're just hanging out with your friends or doing yoga, like self-care. What does self-care look like for you?
Well, it's going for a walk every day for an hour. It's reading for at least an hour and a half a day.
Where do you go?
Every day a different place. Otherwise I'd get bored if I went to the same place. So every day is different. And then just making sure there's time, for family as well. Some parents and nephews and nieces. And going to the occasional movie that's not connected with anything in history. I actually went to Mission Impossible a couple of weeks ago.
I went
every once in a while I need one of those Hollywood blockbusters.
Completely. I actually went to see it because I found out Tom Cruise did all his own stunts.
Yeah, I know. I wish he wouldn't. He's going to probably die from that someday. And we don't want to lose him. But anyway, so I just make sure to, because I didn't used to build in that time when I used to be producing. For instance, 20 years ago, I produced 3 features within 1 year while I was doing the Celluloid Social Club and producing plays and everything else. And I burned out there for a short time. So I know what it's like to burn out after taking on too much. So now I know how to pace myself. Because I said you should always say yes, but of course only say yes if you know you can actually do it. Like maximize your time, but don't. But know when there is a limit, because you really can only take on so much time and. Because of time and energy. So anyway, just know your limit, but try to get close to that limit. Because I do find that if I am busy, then I'm firing on more cylinders. Because if you don't have anything, then you can sort of start to get a bit mentally lax. So I do try to make sure I have enough going on, but A, not as much as I used to, and B, try to also do some of my own projects as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Paul, for taking the time to join us today. I truly appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your journey. You certainly inspire me. You've inspired me over the years, and I hope you all felt inspired. And if you did, make sure to get in touch with us. Paul Armstrong, thank you for joining.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching. Until next time, I'm your host, Zara Durrani. And this is Loki.